Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to be taking concepts like optimism and hope and moving them out of the realm of vague, everyday buzzwords and translating them into concrete, scientifically backed psychological frameworks. We're exploring the cognitive-focused approaches in positive psychology, specifically looking at how our mindsets and strategic thinking can fundamentally alter our life trajectories.
Here's our roadmap for this session. We'll cover 1. The psychology of optimism, 2. The optimism spectrum, 3. Benefits and blind spots, 4. Decoding hope theory, 5. The engine of hope, and finally, 6. Applying the hope cycle.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the psychology of optimism, a cognitive framework.
So the crucial point here is that optimism really isn't just passive, wishful thinking. In psychology, we define it as a cognitive framework where individuals expect positive outcomes in life, even when they're faced with adversity or uncertainty. Basically, optimists believe that positive outcomes are just more likely than negative ones in future events. And crucially, they tend to see setbacks as temporary and specific to a situation rather than, as reflections of their overall personal character. It's a mindset that actively shapes how we approach challenges.
You can really think of these traits as a psychological toolkit. Instead of dwelling on problems, optimists focus on solutions, and they maintain a strong belief in their personal agency. This upbeat attitude doesn't just foster resilience during tough times, it actively builds greater emotional stability and deeper social connections. Plus, that confidence in the future drives long-term goal setting while keeping them grounded with higher levels of gratitude for the positive aspects of their present lives.
Now this is where it gets fascinating. Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory tells us that positive emotions like optimism actually broaden our thought-action repertoire, which encourages us to explore new opportunities. Furthermore, neuroscientific research shows that optimism physically activates areas of the brain associated with motivation and reward, like the ventral striatum, which enhances our goal-directed behaviors. Literally, when people envision successful outcomes, their brain activity mirrors the exact pattern seen when they're actively pursuing those outcomes.
Moving on to Section 2, the optimism spectrum, nuances of positivity.
Because optimism is definitely not a one-size-fits-all concept, we have to contrast realistic optimism against unrealistic optimism. Realistic optimism involves maintaining a grounded, positive outlook while clearly acknowledging the real challenges and limitations of a situation. It perfectly balances hope with practicality. Unrealistic optimism, on the other hand, is a genuinely dangerous mindset where expectations just aren't grounded in reality. It can lead to underestimating risks or wildly overestimating one's abilities, like assuming you can ace a rigorous MSc exam without opening a single book.
We also see dispositional optimism, which is a stable personality trait where someone generally expects good things to happen. Then there's situational optimism, which is a temporary, context-specific belief that a particular event will turn out well. But notably, psychologist Martin Seligman proved we can actually develop what he called learned optimism. This involves cultivating optimism through conscious effort and cognitive behavioral techniques, intentionally changing negative thought patterns into positive, constructive ones.
Next up is Section 3, Benefits and Blind Spots, the reality check.
The advantages of optimism are truly staggering. Research strongly links a positive outlook to improved mental health, showing significantly reduced levels of depression and anxiety. And this mental resilience translates directly into better physical health, including stronger immune systems and lower rates of heart disease. When crises hit, optimists deploy enhanced coping mechanisms and engage in proactive behaviors. So beyond just surviving, this mindset fuels the motivation to pursue challenging goals while building stronger, more supportive social relationships along the way.
But we have to talk about the blind spots. Unchecked or unrealistic optimism comes with severe challenges. It can lead to poor decision-making due to a lack of preparation or just ignoring glaring warning signs. When reality fails to match those inflated expectations, individuals can experience intense disappointment and stress. Furthermore, blind optimism, persistently maintaining a positive outlook regardless of contradictory evidence, can lead to the dangerous denial of serious problems, whether that's in failing business ventures or deteriorating relationships.
So, to safely reap the benefits while avoiding those blind spots, we need to actively cultivate balanced optimism. We can do this by practicing gratitude through things like daily journaling and cognitively reframing negative thoughts into balanced perspectives. We also must set realistic, manageable goals to prevent overwhelming disappointment and consciously surround ourselves with positive, encouraging influences.
Let's pivot now to Section 4, Decoding Hope Theory, the Dynamic Framework.
If optimism is the belief that good things will happen, hope theory is the structured psychological framework that makes those good things happen. Developed by psychologist C.R. Snyder in the 1990s, hope theory integrates ideas from cognitive psychology and goal theory. It completely moves us past hope as a mere emotion or wishful thinking and defines it instead as an active, dynamic cognitive process. Essentially, it's a framework that enables individuals to set goals, develop the pathways to achieve them, and sustain the motivation required to pursue them.
That brings us to Section 5, the engine of hope, goals, pathways, and agency.
Let's break down this theoretical engine using its three core components. First, every journey begins with a destination. In hope theory, clear, meaningful goals serve as the absolute foundation. Whether they are short-term or long-term, simple or complex, these goals must be highly valued by the individual to provide true direction and purpose. If goals are your destination, pathways thinking is your GPS. It's mapping the routes and alternative solutions when you face obstacles. Agency thinking, on the other hand, is the fuel in your tank. It is your profound belief in your own self-efficacy and the willpower to initiate and sustain the actions necessary to actually travel those pathways.
Now, agency and pathways do not exist in isolation. They form a continuous, dynamic feedback loop. Strong pathways instill confidence, which in turn reinforces your agency. Then, when a pathway is blocked by an obstacle, robust agency provides the motivational fuel needed to explore new, alternative pathways. This delicate balance is absolutely critical for fostering long-term resilience.
Finally, let's look at Section 6, applying the hope cycle, personal growth.
So how do we actually apply this interplay for our own psychological well-being? It works through a continuous four-step cycle. First, you set a clear, attainable goal. Second, you use pathways thinking to brainstorm multiple routes to success. Third, you activate agency thinking to motivate yourself to take action. And finally, you achieve the goal and reflect. Achieving a goal through this active process creates a powerful positive feedback loop, which increases your baseline of hope and resilience for any future challenges.
Because this framework is so actionable, its real-world applications are incredibly vast. In education, it helps students identify study pathways and build academic confidence. In therapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, it guides clients to reframe thoughts and develop actionable plans. It also improves patient adherence in healthcare, enhances leadership and organizational culture in the workplace, and helps athletes build resilience in sports psychology.
To wrap up our exploration today, let's look at the big picture with a comprehensive academic summary. We've seen how optimism acts as the cognitive expectation of positive outcomes, giving us the resilience to focus on solutions rather than problems. We traced its forms, from dispositional to learned optimism, noting its undeniable health benefits alongside the real dangers of blind optimism. We then decoded C.R. Snyder's hope theory, seeing firsthand how clear goals, strategic pathways thinking, and motivational agency thinking all work together as a vital engine for psychological well-being and personal growth. I hope this explainer has clarified these essential cognitive approaches for you. Before we wrap up, ask yourself, are you currently relying on blind optimism to get by, or are you actively fueling the engine of hope theory to build your own pathways to success? Definitely something to think on. And as we conclude, I'll leave you with this. In the next lecture, we will study self-efficacy, problem-solving, setting goals for life and happiness, wisdom, and learning as a life-sustaining perspective.